Hello, my name is Peter Lavers and welcome to the Customer Centricity Corner brought to you by Customer Attuned Limited. We are all about building customer-centric and trust-based culture to establish sustainable, mutually beneficial and profitable B2B relationships. And in this series, I'm discussing the why, how and what of customer centricity. Our subject today is maintaining customer focus in what is a highly competitive and quarterly sales driven industry sector. And I'm delighted to introduce Justin Du from mParticle. Justin has nearly 30 years experience in the IT sector in sales and channel management roles. He is territory director for the Middle East and Africa for mParticle, who are a customer data platform combining real-time data quality and governance protections with AI-powered insights and predictions. Right up my street then. Welcome, Justin.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you for avoiding calling me a veteran as well. It's a great start to the slot.
That's always good. So to kick off, you've been in the IT sector, and that sector is notorious for its numbers-driven and quarterly sales focus. In your experience, Justin, how have you balanced the need to obviously meet those sales targets, but whilst also building and maintaining long-term client relationships and trust?
I think you're right. The sector has had a reputation for sort of high stress and high powered selling, but I think what's happened over time is that the way buyers buy, the way prospects buy has changed, and that has had to drive a difference of behavior within how we sell. Part of that is access to information. If you think about how we used to look at products and engage with brands far earlier in a buying cycle, as the internet has matured and the access to information has changed, that customers come to the vendor a lot later in their process, and that means that the sellers, the vendors, have got a shorter period of time to engage and to drive, therefore, a better engagement strategy with the customers. And I tend to term this as a you win, I win approach. We need to balance our quarterly cycles. Yes, we need to balance how we convert business. But if we want to build a long-term relationship and move from tactical to partnership-based selling, then it is evidencing to the prospective customer that you understand their business, seeking a value-based approach where in many cases you expose certain parts about your business and your requirements for them to understand why you're taking certain steps, but also helping them build a value-based proposition that is going to last the period of time that they are considering for this project. And think of it as most purchases now are for the longer term. Then they're not a one-time purchase. And so if you can identify the friction points, if you can identify the business problems that the customer is trying to solve, then marry your offering, your solution, your service, if it's a service, to that, you're then creating a you win, I win situation, and we can start building value around that. If it's very much one side wins, then typically you haven't got a long-term relationship. I would suggest at that point you're probably not selling strategically or buying strategically. You're selling for the short term or buying for the short term. So when we're doing this, we're basically building trust. And that's the key pillar, really, to how we build these long-term relationships. And the trust has to be both ways. So we have to build trust within our own ecosystem, our own business. The company believes we know what we're doing. They believe that we're forecasting accurately, that we're positioning this book of business to close in a predictable time frame, which is obviously important for publicly quoted companies that need to deliver accurate statements to the street. And that demands a relationship with a customer where you can be consultative, where you can understand what their timelines are, You're seeking information from them about, for example, how would they buy a project of this size? Is it a committee-based approach? In which case, how frequently does the committee meet? If it's once a quarter, has that already happened? Therefore, this is not a this quarter opportunity, it's a next quarter opportunity. It's understanding what are the key drivers that they're looking to achieve by implementing yours or somebody else's technology, but what are the key business motivations and aligning to that. And really building trust, demonstrating an understanding of their process, and making sure the pace is running at a speed that both sides are comfortable with. If you're trying to push something too quickly, you're asking them to behave outside of their comfort zone. And similarly, if they're trying to accelerate you to a decision, you're possibly going to miss some valuable points, which will be exposed later, because as you're implementing a technology or a service, the gaps that you missed in the first part will become evident further down the line. And then you may have a bigger problem than if you just took the time to dig those out early on.
Great. I think you're already giving some examples there, Justin. Just to have a think, any more examples that you can share, mate, with the watchers and the listeners of where the process that you've been talking about, which is great if it can be achieved. Can you give some examples of where it has or hasn't worked in building this long-term mutual value that you've mentioned several times?
Yeah, I mean, in my experience, typically where we have an accelerated approach from a prospective customer, an abnormal buying process where they come into a conversation and they're wanting to execute incredibly quickly. They're not wanting to take the time to work through the normal steps that we would need to work through. That would indicate that there's information here we don't know. There are pieces to their decision-making process we don't understand. They may have been down a journey with another vendor that wasn't successful. They may have not started their process early enough to give them the time to do that. But if we are pushed into an unnatural buying behavior or an unnatural selling behavior, again, most of these projects that we're involved with are strategic to the business, and they're strategic to a longer term project, and therefore taking the time. I think one of the expressions I've had used a few times in South Africa, and we both have experience there, is hurry up and slow down. It's making sure we've got the time to understand exactly what the customer's trying to achieve, and make sure that we can map to it. And one thing that we drive very strongly within our business and the businesses I've worked in is don't actually be afraid to qualify out. In fact, try wherever possible to qualify out early. Try and have these consultative discovery conversations with customers as early as possible, and qualify out, if you have to, as quickly as possible. There's two reasons for that. One is our time is valuable as sellers, and that sounds conceited, but it is, because most sellers they run on a commission basis, so they need to make sure they're addressing reasonable selling opportunities. But our customers, or our prospective customers' time, is also extremely valuable. And if you stay in that selection process, you've got a hope that you might be able to fit it, but you don't have a conviction that you can, you're actually doing them a disservice. It's very rare that there's only one product that they can buy or one service that they can buy. And if you qualify out early enough, it gives them the option to go and talk to other vendors that may be better suited or should be better suited to what they're trying to do. So speed and detail, I would say those are the two things that I've learned over time. Take the time to understand what the customer is trying to do, understand their business problems and their friction points, and then make sure with the team that you assemble around you that you can address those issues, and where you can't, clearly articulate where the gaps are. The gaps might be acceptable if the other 80 or 90% delivers everything that is needed, but it's that transparency, and that's where the partnerships start to grow. If you are able to say to somebody, look, these are the things that we do, and these are the things that we don't. That's pretty much the advice that I would give.
That is brilliant. Thank you so much, Justin. I really appreciate those insights that you've shared, and the openness and the honesty. One thing that really struck me from what you said was this, effectively opening up, making yourself vulnerable, exposing part of your business, which you said, which very much uh, uh, equates to the work that my colleague, and him, Dr. Mark Hollyoake, has done on trust. That actually you're effectively taking a risk when you trust the other party in the B2B relationship, and the way that you then took that down into um, being open and honest about the timing of projects, because I'm sure many watchers and listeners will have been in situations where the project's running late and everybody knew it was going to, right from the start. They always knew there was going to be a delay. It wasn't going to hit the first milestone, but nobody was honest and open enough to actually face that up front, so that actually you could have an equitable and a mutual value relationship thereafter, and you end up with blame
Yeah.
games and and poor culture from that. And also what you said about qualifying out, thank you for that. So many kind of toxic culture sales businesses just try to go for stuff that they know they maybe they could deliver, but actually they're not the best people for that client to actually choose, and to have that honesty. Well, that builds trust, and that means that when the thing does come up, that you actually is in your sweet spot, but what you can deliver, you win that. So thank you so much for those insights. That concludes our discussion today. Please go to our website, which is customerattuned.com, to get links to this and to the rest of the series, and see what else we do at Customer Attuned. This includes helping you to overcome the issues and the things that Justin has articulated so well. Thank you for listening, and thanks again, Justin, for being our speaker today.